Here's another flower who's coming up, who is sort of in that star-like. This is American ginseng. American ginseng we have planted in the past. We have found it occasionally in the wild places. It is not an easy one to find here. It used to be easier to find, but again, it's been over-harvested. That's another thing that can happen to the plants that we have in the woodlands. Golden seal, American ginseng, blue cohosh, black cohosh. People who have all good intentions to move a plant from where they are to a similar place near their home doesn't always work. And some are also gathering for medicine. So at this point, many of the plants that are in the woods, there's another American ginseng picture. What we're trying to do is to nurture them in shade-grown plants, which is so helpful. We're urging people not to gather from the wild. We're also asking people, when they are getting plants, to buy them from reputable companies, centers, garden centers, and places where they can actually buy something that's been started from seed in a greenhouse at some point. There's an amazing organization called United Plant Savers. At the very end of the slideshow, there is a slide that gives the information for them. You can just go to unitedplantsavers.org and find out more about a lot of these plants that I'm going to be talking about, because these are all plants that are indigenous to our area and they are all at risk. So by learning more about them, by being careful not to harvest them, by appreciating them instead is a good idea. The American ginseng flowers, they're very star-like as well. They're gorgeous, actually. And so this is, again, those flowers of like incarnation. You know, American ginseng brings us into our strength of ourselves. American ginseng is used as, it's cool and sweet as an herb. And we can use that sense of sweetness, coolness, strength, vitality, which is what American ginseng gives us. It was one of the first plants that sadly was gathered up and sent over to Europe. And the ginseng growers, many of them do know about then going back in the late summer, early fall to replant the seeds in the ground. But the thing about a lot of these plants is to plant them is one thing, but to have them go through a wild turkey or a partridge, you know, for them to, with their way of they can like break up they like stones and they break up the seed a little bit more, rough it up. So it has that stratification so that it can then go back into the soil and then have a better chance of growing. So again, vitality, strength, support, deeply healing. It's said that for American ginseng, one should use it if one is old or one feels old, but not in case you want to just be strengthening up your biceps when you're out doing your workout and you're only 20. You know, this is one that should be preserved and reserved. But as a flower essence, and by the way, I've been practicing with using some of these flower essences instead of the herb itself. So to not have to take the plant itself. And it's kind of amazing to watch. Sometimes it is really what people needed. It's just needed the energetics of the plant, not the actual plant medicine. And sometimes they need something a little bit more. But I would say almost half the time, if I use a flower essence instead, when I'm working with a client in my practice, there's an amazing kind of sense of like, oh, wow, this really has transpired.